Alright, hey guys, Blood Moon Bobby here, and why are we talking about the iPhone 10 again? Didn't I talk about this, like, back when it was first announced? I basically said I didn't really get it at the time, although nowadays I do respect that it is an upgrade, and I know that people want a bezel-less phone, so why are we... Wait a minute, who made this? Asus? Um, okay, I mean, damn, it looks so much like an iPhone 10. It's a it's a bezel-less phone. It's got a notch at the top, although the one on the Asus phone, which there's actually two of these phones, unlike a lot of what articles, headlines are saying. They are the Asus ZenFone 5Z and the ZenFone 5. And the basic difference, I'll get into it in a second, is basically that the regular ZenFone 5 has more mid-range specs compared to the 5Z. But I mean, dang, this thing really does look like an iPhone 10. I mean, and the interesting thing is when I was doing the research, which by the way, the research on this phone was really kind of tough to do. Asus's press release was kind of confusing. I mean, well, the phone itself, its design is kind of confusing since, it kind of looks like an iPhone 10. Although, interestingly enough, unlike the iPhone 10, the ZenFone's flash is located under the camera rather in between. It's got a fingerprint sensor on the back, so brownie points there. I mean, for me, I personally prefer a fingerprint sensor over, anything else. I mean, I know there's gonna be people out there that are like, oh, but I wear gloves. But if we're talking about my preferences, I would prefer a a fingerprint sensor over having to scan my face. But specs wise, I would say the ZenFones, particularly the 5Z, compares pretty well with the iPhone 10. The 5Z, well, actually, both phones have a 6.2-inch LCD screen, which, it's not an OLED screen, so it's not going to be the best for watching movies, but it's more, LCDs tend to be more color accurate, and I would say, especially if you like taking pictures, an LCD is more color accurate if you care about things like color accuracy of things like skin tones. The 5Z has a Snapdragon 845 processor with Asus's artificial intelligence engine. You can get the phone with either 6 or 8 gigabytes of RAM. The phone, thank God, runs Android Oreo on top of Asus's Zen UI 5.0 interface, which I've gotten to try out on my Nexus 5X back when it still works. I mean, it works well for the most part, although I'm pretty sure purists would prefer if it was stock Android. But what phone, aside from the Pixels, runs stock Android anymore? And in terms of the camera, both phones have cameras they kind of remind me of the LG G5 in that you have one regular sensor and the other one is a wide angle 120 degree camera. You have the 12 megapixel f1.8 standard camera and an 8 megapixel camera that has that 120 degree wide angle lens. And in terms of the front facing camera, both phones have an 8 megapixel camera. The 5Z's got a USB Type-C port, thank you, and unlike the iPhone 10, a 3.5 millimeter headphone jack. Which, it's so funny, I tried to embrace the whole headphone jack is going away thing. Like, I bought Bluetooth headphones and lightning headphones, and long story short, I couldn't really get into it because headphones are not only more cost effective, but as a guy who works with audio, headphones with the 3.5 millimeter port are still more favored in the audio lovers industry. And now that I actually do have an iPhone 7, which is a great phone, it's one of the best smartphones I've ever had, but that whole thing where I have to use a dongle is a real pain in the ass, especially if I want to charge it and don't want to spend the extra money to get Bluetooth headphones. So I'm really glad Asus is keeping the headphone jack on both the 5Z and the regular ZenFone 5. You can get the 5Z with 64, 128, or 256 gigabytes of storage, and you can expand using a micro SD card slot. So I think the best way to sum up the ZenFone 5Z is that it's an iPhone 10 lookalike, but it has Android's benefits. You know, things like having the micro SD card slot and the headphone jack. And I will say to Asus, I really wish you guys would have picked a more original design. Like, I know bezel-less smartphones with notches, it's kind of the trend with companies like Xiaomi, Essential Phone, and Apple are getting into it. But this is a little too, not even a little, this is too obvious. Like, wait, I think I even mentioned earlier in the video that even like an Asus, I think it was a suit, even said, in the case of the ZenFone 5, which the price for that wasn't announced, that it will be competitively priced with a certain fruity company. So, I don't know. I wouldn't be surprised if, I know these days Apple isn't as lawsuit hungry with other smartphone manufacturers, but I wouldn't be surprised if they go after Asus. I mean, not that I would be like, woo, Apple, oh, you go sue Asus. I'm just thinking, well, you have a very similar design, so, well, shit. But anyway, moving on to the ZenFone 5, it also has a 6.2-inch LCD. The biggest differential feature on the ZenFone 5 is that it has a Snapdragon 636, not the new Snapdragon 845. So it's not going to be as powerful, but for mid-ranger, I think it'll be just fine. And like the 5Z, it will have the same camera. It will also run Android Oreo on top of Zen UI 5.0. It will also have the front-facing 8-megapixel camera. The 5 will only come with 64 gigabytes of storage, but you will get a micro SD card slot. And instead of the choice of either 6 or 8 gigabytes of RAM, the ZenFone 5 will come with either 4 or 6. 4 is still pretty decent, although nowadays, especially for Android, you may want to get the 6 gigabytes of RAM. And it will have a USB-C port, a fingerprint sensor, and a headphone jack. Release details on the ZenFone 5 are kind of murky at the moment. It is coming to the UK, but there's no word on if it will come to the US or Australia. And like I said before, they haven't announced a price. As for the 5Z, it's going to cost 500 British pounds. It will come to the UK, obviously, and the US, but there were no announced prices. So the long end and the short of the Asus ZenFone 5 is, if you can get past the whole looking like an iPhone 10 thing, which I really wish Asus would be a little more original, then I think you're going to have a pretty decent phone. And so, yeah, it just so happens that it's going to look like Apple's current flagship, but you're probably going to get it for a fraction of the price. And so that's all I really have to say. I know this was like really big news and I wanted to talk about it, but I think just the initial shock is that it looks so much like an iPhone 10, and I think it is apparent that Asus is going after, well, maybe not going after the iPhone 10, but they are saying, hey, you want that trendy iPhone 10 design with the bezel-less screen and the notch on the top? Well, you can get it from us. It runs Android. We have the headphone jack, and you can get it for a fraction of the price. So, you know, at this point in my life, I'm kind of just realizing that, you know, corporations will always, you know, copy each other's features, whether it be, oh, hey, Apple put the fingerprint sensor first and now Samsung has to do it. Oh, hey, Samsung has the bezel-less AMOLED screen, so now Apple has to put a bezel-less OLED phone. I don't mind it as much when it comes to features because I figure that's just competitiveness. When it comes to design, though, especially nowadays, so many companies, I mean, yes, every smartphone kind of looks like a candy bar, but they do, you know, each company does have, you know, their own traits. You know, you could tell an LG phone apart from a Samsung phone, and you can differentiate an iPhone 10 from the HTC U11. And so with the Asus ZenFone 5 and 5Z, it looks a little too obvious, but I think objectively speaking, they are going to be really good phones. It's just that their marketing department and design department just got a little too copy heavy. So, alright guys, this has been Blood Moon Bobby. I am continuing on Mobile World Congress coverage. I'll have videos out today on Sony and Nokia. And right now, MWC is pretty much going to be my focus. So, thank you guys for watching, and please continue to follow me as I continue covering Mobile World Congress. Hey guys, this has been a Blood Moon Bobby video. Please like this video or dislike it, and please subscribe to my channel. Thanks for watching.